Hi, this is Brad Hawkins again, and wanted to chat with you a little bit about a four-letter word called budgeting. Now, I do know how to spell budgeting, but sometimes we have a tendency to make them a little four-letter word. And what I want to do is I want to tell you the importance of what budgeting is. To me, budgeting is just pre-planning how you're going to spend your dollars to make sure you don't spend it on things that don't really create value. You want to make sure that you spend your money on things that you really want to be spending your money for. There's what I would consider three different areas in budgeting. One is your fixed expenses, and those are expenses that you know that are going to be there, and they're fixed amounts of money, and it's always the same. That's your rent or your mortgage or your car payment or anything that stays the same on a regular basis. Those are easy to plan for, and to tell you the truth, usually when I ask somebody if they live on a budget, they write out their fixed expenses and say, this is my budget. It's not a budget, that's just a list of your fixed expenses. There's another type of expenses, is that those are your variable expenses. And variable expenses are expenses that occur every month, but they're always different amounts of money. They always change. That would be like your utility bill, your cell phone bill, whatever it is. The amount is going to change on a regular basis because you don't know exactly how much of that you're going to use each month. Those are a little more difficult to deal with because at that point you're dealing with averages. You got to figure out a 12-month average to be able to figure out how you're going to plan on these monthly bills. Now, if you live in states that the temperature is the same all the time, that's easy. But if at least for your utilities, but if you're living in a state like we do that snows and then it's hot, you got all kinds of crazy numbers where your water bill may be real low or real high in different months. So that's the reason why it's important to have averages, to be able to make sure that those numbers will level out so that you're not panicked in different parts of the month. The third type of expenses are the reason why most budgets will not work. And that's because these type of expenses are usually never prepared for. And those are what we call periodic expenses. Those are expenses that occur sometime within the year, but not necessarily every month. That's your car repairs. Well, your car breaking down is not an emergency. You know it's going to break down. So you can't say, gosh, I didn't know that was going to happen. You know you're going to have to buy tires at some point. That's not an emergency. The idea is that you plan for them prior to the expense. So what will happen is that you figure out how much it costs you to run that car on a yearly basis. You divide that by 12, and that gives you your monthly numbers to be able to budget from. It's a very it's an easy process, but the intent is that, let's say your car is costing you $40 a month, but you don't pay it other than once a year as it breaks down. You take that $40 and you put it aside every month until the car breaks down. You got the money, you go take care of it. Stress and headache is gone. Is that possible to do? It is possible to do. Our coaches, we've got coaches that work with people on a regular basis to train people in this process and make this work. And our coaches, they can make finances sing with people as long as there's some willingness to be able to go along there. But the intent is that you are pre-planning how you're going to spend your money, and you go ahead and spend it prior to that. In the process, building up the money and then delivering it to the place that it needs to be delivered to when the expense actually happens. This budgeting process is not going to work. I just spent all this time telling you that how to do it, and it's not going to work unless you do one thing, and that is keep track of where your money is going. If you don't keep track of your expenses, and I mean writing down every penny that you spend. I know some of you probably just fell out of your chair just with what I just said. But if you're keeping track of every penny that you spend, writing down in a little tiny notebook, taking a look and say, okay, my grocery budget is $300, $500 to $1,000 a month, whatever the number is. And I am spending as I go. I compare it to my budget. You now can keep yourself on budget based on your expenses. You think, are you crazy? Am I actually going to write down every penny that you spend? Well, you think about it. Companies across this country keep track of every penny that they spend. You might even work at one of those companies. If you go spend your company's money, you have to come back and tell them how you spent it. If you don't, then you probably spent your money, not theirs. Companies are doing it on a regular basis. People are doing it on a regular basis. Most of our clients are doing it on a regular basis. It's not impossible. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. But the benefit that you get from it far outweighs any effort that you have to put out to make that happen. So I'd encourage you, create a budget. If you need help, email us. We'll help you do it. It's no big deal. But create a budget, create a proper spending plan, put some tracking involved with it. Make sure that in that budget you've got places that you're be saving money, you've got places that you're working towards getting out of debt and that kind of thing. When you're going through that process, you're going to find that you have control over your money and you're spending it on things that are creating value for you, which is going to give you a much better life. So consider that. Like I said, any questions, email us and we'll do what we can do to help you. So thanks a lot.